Okay, we are live.
Yeah. If you ask her if she's using another name.
Yes, this is what I actually wrote her, and I will text her quickly. So, Okay. Maybe she changed the name because I asked her to change the name.
Okay.
Uh,
Maybe she's in the other Zoom meeting. That's a chance.
Which other?
It shouldn't
Because
be
we had
working.
another link, but it was canceled.
It was cancelled, so it's strange.
But I sent her the link you sent to me.
Oh, then that should be correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I still don't.
I text her on WhatsApp. I sent her an email.
Or maybe we should
Here
people
she
in
is.
and see, and see if she's there.
No, Larissa. No, her name is Larissa. The name she's using is Larissa Almeida. So let me send her again the link. Maybe. Okay.
We are already live on streaming.
Yes. Hello, YouTube.
So maybe I'll send her again the link. And opla. And we start. Okay. You tell me, shall we start? Because I need to close my email box.
I think we should, but then perhaps you can share my email with her and I can keep track of my email.
Okay. Okay, I just sent you her email, and I'm closing my email box. Okay.
Okay. Then I will admit everybody. Have fun. I'm looking forward to it, and I will check in with Larissa via email right after we start.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good. I'm letting everyone in.
Good luck.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Be.Cultour's third free webinar. Today's webinar, titled Innovative Solutions for Circular Cultural Tourism, aims to explore what is meant by innovative solutions for circular cultural tourism and what possible tools could be used to activate the process and involve the local community in the co-design, co-development, and co-implementation of the solutions. Moreover, concrete examples from different continents will be presented and challenges will be thoroughly discussed. Before we start, I would like to dedicate a quick moment for housekeeping. Please keep your mic muted during the webinar. However, when you wish to talk during the dedicated Q&A session, please click the microphone icon to mute or unmute yourself. Please note that the webinar will be recorded, so please feel free to keep your camera on or off. You're welcome to use the chat box throughout the webinar. The last 20 minutes is dedicated to Q&As. I will now start by introducing Be.Cultour, and then I will also introduce our 5 bright speakers. So I will be sharing my screen. Yes. So what is Be.Cultour? Be.Cultour is a Horizon 2020 research project which stands for Beyond Cultural Tourism, Heritage Innovation Networks as drivers of Europeanization towards a human-centered and circular tourism economy. The main goal of this project is to move beyond tourism, classical tourism, through a longer-term human-centered development perspective, which enhances cultural heritage and landscape values. The project is trying to offer to a wider audience a series of interesting free webinars for you to join according to the topics which you're interested in. So please check our website and register to some or all of our webinars. You are most welcome. Today, during the next 1 hour and a half, we will be exploring circular cultural tourism with 5 brilliant speakers, and you will have the opportunity to address some challenges, questions, comments to them at the end of the webinar. I'm very happy to moderate today's webinar. My name is Ruba Saleh, and I'm a lecturer at Ishaq Brussels Management School, which is a partner of Be.Cultour project. And I'm here also with my dear colleague, Philippe Drouillon, who I will present in 1 second. So Philippe Drouillon is a senior expert in sustainable, agile, and impactful business and catalyst of agile and participatory positive impact teams, organizations, and territories, and he is a certified B Corporation leader. He's specialized in sustainable and positive impact business models, collective intelligence, and group dynamics, participatory and agile ways of working, design thinking, and lean startup, breakthrough and continuous innovation, and multi-stakeholders cooperative practices. Our next speaker today is Professor Dr. Daniela Angelina Jelinic, who is a senior researcher, advisor, and full professor at the Institute for International Relations in Croatia. Her specific interests are in cultural tourism, cultural heritage management, cultural and creative industries, cultural policy, creativity, experience economy, and social innovations. Our third speaker today is Elke Aris, who is specialized in the preventive conservation and digitization of audiovisual heritage. She has an extensive experience with a variety of cultural heritage forms, ranging from museum collections, archives, libraries, industrial heritage, audiovisual materials to intangible heritage in both Europe and Africa. Our next speaker will be Larissa Almeida, who's a consultant and researcher of transformative initiatives that use creativity and tourism as platform. She's experienced in business development in creative tourism in several communities in the northeast of Brazil, and with initiatives for the promotion and commercialization of creative tourism. Our fifth bright speaker is Dr. Toki Lawton-Brown, who is a heritage architect at Merging Ecologies, a scientific member of the Scientific Committee Graduate Program in Cultural Heritage Studies at the University of Nova Gorica in Slovenia. She's an expert member of the International Scientific Committee on Cultural Landscapes and represents Nigeria on International Council on Monuments and Sites, ICOMOS. I will stop sharing my screen now, and without further ado, I would like to welcome Philippe. and ask you, Philippe, to please elaborate on how to reorient cultural tourism design, incubation, and acceleration towards strong circularity and sustainability. Philippe, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ruba. Welcome, everybody. Yes, I will spend a few minutes explaining at least some experiences that have been put in place in different places in Europe and in Belgium that I'd like to share about right now. I'm going to share my screen and hope that it's going to work. Voila. Okay, so the topic that I'd like to share is really to ignite an entrepreneurial dynamic at the territorial level for good, and I will elaborate further on that. The idea is that any citizen who is ready to put energy, citizen, institution, association, or even corporation that is ready to put energy and motivation is a potential entrepreneur that can take a dent in the positive impact of his or her territory. So imagine that you are in a region that had a wealthy industrial past thanks to coal mines, steel industry, or textile. Today, there is a high level of unemployment, a life expectancy that is decreasing, a strong rural exile and loss of basic services, a lot of streams, a lot of assets that are underused, and the total consumption that is mainly based on imported goods. So the idea is that this entrepreneurial spirit that can be reignited is a way to, I would say, transform this territory and by relying on the old cultural and industrial heritage that is available on the territory. So what to do, how to do it? It can be done through different ways. First, identifying the hotspots that are relevant to tackle along the territory's vital functions. I will come back to that later on, and then set up a continuous and consolidated innovation pipeline of projects that will be based on the stage gate approach, and then a robust design and acceleration process that combines collective intelligence and individual coaching with a strong focus on societal impact, including circular economy, of course. And it is effectuation based. This means that there will be vehicles that will trigger and stimulate entrepreneurship among the entire territory, giving the possibility to people, teams, collectives to take in charge this entrepreneurial journey in a facilitated way. I will also dedicate some time on some I would say considerations that can break some glass ceilings we are used to face when we do this kind of transformation. Step one, identifying the hotspots along the vital functions is really through a participatory way, is to organize workshops that will invite citizens, institutions, experts, but in a multidisciplinary way to identify what are the hotspots, what are the most important ones that needs to be tackled around the different vital functions, and using the donut model to identify the environmental and social issues that are relevant to tackle on the territory. So the donuts, just a quick reminder, is a model that says, okay, any activity, human activity, should be positioned between the environmental limitations that shouldn't be, I would say, overcome, and the minimal social foundation that should be available for any human being on the territory. So this safe and just space for humans and this regenerative and distributive space is the place where activity should be positioned. So any hotspot must be identified, but also positive things. You see the green post-its are also positive activities that can be highlighted already right now. By hotspots, we mean local hotspots that are either environmental or social, but also global hotspots. Just an example, climate change is global, while pollution of water is mostly local. And this means a global social issue might be child work included in the product we consume, and a social local issue might be the underemployment on the territory. So the idea is really to screen out all the big issues that are material for the territory and see which ones do we want to tackle. And this along the entire value chain of the products, services, and solutions that are put in place on the territory. So each time we say, okay, what are the environmental limits that are challenged, and what are the social foundations that are not present at each stage of the life cycle. Having done that, we have a list of hotspots that deserve to take action and consider projects. So these projects, or IDs, because this is the second part of the workshop, is to produce IDs. So what can we do to tackle that? We'll feed up a backlog of potential projects that will be prioritized and then developed through what we call a stage gate approach, meaning that the best way to allocate resources on a territory is to make the project grow, but having gates that allow to assess whether the projects deserve more means or not, because it's probably finally not a so good project as expected. So you see, the gates are detailed, what needs to be checked, and you see that the budget is expressed in t-shirt sizes, so that you see that progressively you put more and more money and resources, can be time, expertise, and money, of course, in order to develop the relevant and impactful projects. So this is done through an agile way, through sprints, that allows also people to see, in order to pave the way and see the project evolving or not in the right direction. Prioritization is key. According to the resources, I like the expression stop starting, start finishing. So avoid to start too many things in parallel, and perhaps it's better to start 2 or 3 projects and to run them fast in order to get as quick as possible results that we confirm it's a good project, or maybe unfortunately confirm that it's not so good project. What should be the qualities of this project? It should be projects that are desirable. So there is somebody who wants to adopt what is suggested, that is feasible, viable. So you have a financial strategy to monetize and make this project viable, and of course impactful. So the idea is really to focus on the impact of the projects. To do so, we use a societal impact canvas, very similar to the well-known business model canvas, but emulated with the impact dimension that you see in yellow here. So we really want to focus on what's in it regarding the impact, and something more about governance, how we suppose that the project should be governed in order to include some participatory and agile principles in the way projects are run. The accelerator is a series of moments where these candidates or teams that are ready to spend time, energy, and motivation in running these projects will go through several steps of the project. So these are 2 examples of mirror boards that we are used to use with these kind of teams, in order to go through these different stages of desirability, feasibility, viability, and impact. And this mirror board is just the tip of the iceberg, because actually the people are spending a lot of time on the field, testing, prototyping, testing, all what they are currently designing. So they start sketching a solution and identify the riskiest assumptions and go out of the building to test. They prototype, they design the development plan, they assume they would develop if the project becomes live and is confirmed to be a promising project. And they have some figures to put in place regarding their financial conditions to make this project viable, but also to make this project impactful. Based on that, this is the final figure. We included some innovation approaches regarding the design thinking approach that we use. One of them is the life-centered design, meaning that we are not only identifying the users or the customers of the project that are then described through what we call user personas, but we will also use personas for describing non-humans that are impacted today by the current situation, or humans that are impacted but not necessarily users or customers of the solution. This allow to extend the perception of the project owners regarding, okay, what are the different stakeholders that must be taken into account, that we should take care about, that are not necessarily our target users or target customers. So you see here trees, bees, and Poonam with an avatar of a child worker, a way to describe, okay, we need also to take care about these different dimensions in our project in order to tackle the issues we identified previously as hotspots. This impact map, that is a combination of the donut model and the sustainable development goals, are ways to make an assessment without complacency about how far is the project regenerative and distributive. So if you are in the green zone, this means that you have a positive contribution. Positive is not doing less harm, it's really a positive contribution. While the red zone is to recognize that even though our project is aimed at bringing positive impacts, we still have some red zones that are still present. Impact is about using an international reference that in order to ask people to describe what are the different dimensions of the impact they expect to give or to provide, about the what, the who, how much, how deep, how long is the impact, will be the impact, the contribution of this project to the overall, I would say, challenge, and the risk to the people and the planet if the impact does not occur as expected. So it's a kind of a set of guidelines that allow people to get more precise and invoke and avoid a kind of impact washing approach that that people might choose to say, okay, yes, but our project has a positive impact on that SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. But actually, when you ask this question, it invites people to be more precise and more focused on what they are really bringing as positive impacts.
Philippe, may I ask you to conclude?
Okay, so as a conclusion, another innovation that is used is to consider the territory as a forest. So meaning that any new project should provide the same quality of service as the surrounding ecosystem, meaning that the reflection is also that any human activity is of course allowed, more than welcome, but by considering that the ecosystem around provides services since millennials, from time, 1,000 years, and we should be able to install human activities that mimic and provide the same services. Last but not least, just to make it short, and I will go quickly, what is also important in this project is to consider the organizational design. So a lot of things are done regarding the mission, the governance, the ownership model, and the financial model that are behind in order to maximize the consistency between how we run the projects and the impacts that are expected from the project.
Thank you very much, Philippe, for this inspiring presentation, which actually represents also the methodology which you designed and implemented throughout Horizon 2020 project Be.Cultour, and out of which the project managed to help 19 innovative teams from 6 European pilot heritage sites to ignite an entrepreneurial journey and develop very innovative and inspiring projects. Thank you very much, Philippe. I would like now to give the floor to Professor Dr. Daniela Angelina Jelenic, who will revisit the essence of tourism and explore the challenges in innovative circular tourism. Daniela, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ruba. Thank you for the invitation. Therefore, I suppose you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I took a somewhat different approach in preparing this presentation. It's mostly based on good practice examples. So I started from the Be.Cultour definition of circularity in cultural tourism. So definitely this is a new topic, and it's in support to sustainability, both of cultural heritage and other cultural attractions, and of course, also in support of tourism models. So it is applied on one side to physical aspects like tangible heritage, but also on business, financing, management or governance models of cultural tourism. Therefore, I am going to focus more on good practice examples from each of these fields, which can be considered as circular. So normally it entails green transition, sustainability, regeneration of the communities, and equitable development. And as Be.Cultour defines it, it should be human-centered, fair, and responsible tourism. Therefore, it should empower local communities to take advantage of the benefit of sustainable tourism. I am coming from Croatia, so I will end up with some Croatian examples, but I also search globally or more European-wide to present these good practice examples. So when we normally speak about the circularity, the usual idea for non-researchers, I would say, is green transition. So this is an example of the future hotel Svart from Norway, which is being built based on green principles, like energy saving, and which will need 85% less energy than typical modern hotels. It's about to be opened in this year. So as you can see, it's on a wooden structure in the middle of the fjord. Architecture-wise, I suppose you're better experts than I am, but it looks very good. But the most important is its circularity in terms of energy. However, as I mentioned at the beginning, I will show the examples related to physical aspects and also other ones in terms of circularity. Therefore, one Dutch example of a Sweet Mother monastery from the city of Den Bosch in the Netherlands. It's an example of repurposing the monastery. What happens in the Netherlands as a whole is the increasing secularization. So there is a lot of heritage buildings, especially churches, which were dedicated to its religious use, but there is no interest for the religion. So what to do with these buildings? So this example of Sweet Mother Mary monastery, it's turned to a hotel, like for the hospitality services and the restaurant. Therefore, it serves the tourism purpose, but the cloister of the hotel was open to the public, so the venue is used also for the on-the-job education for people from all walks of life. It does serve tourism, but it's also turned to the local community. So although it's owned by a private party and exploitation is done by private party, but it shares the content with the local community. When it comes to the circularity in financing, I may suggest this good practice example. This one has been done within the Interreg Europe project I worked on, Keep On project. So it's the Asti Museum Foundation in Italy. The Asti is a city at the north of Italy. There is 5 museums operating under one roof, and the problem was how to secure financing, because the city of Asti did not have funds for all the 5 museums. So what they did, they established a so-called Asti Museum Foundation, which is together with the municipality of Asti and the Asti Savings Bank Foundation. So the model is that the bank donates 800,000 euro each year to the Asti Museum Foundation. And all the revenues coming from the museums must be reinvested in other cultural projects in Asti. So you can see that it again goes into the local community. So what was the change in the model, in the financing model? So they started organizing blockbuster exhibitions, like, for example, Marc Chagall, which stimulated increased interest and also increased the profit. Another one from France, very innovative example. So it's a citadel in Arras in France. You know, it's very, very difficult to finance heritage buildings which have such thick walls, and heating for such buildings requires a lot of money. So they came up with a very innovative idea to put computer servers in the basement of the citadel. So computer servers produce a lot of heat, and this is how they managed to solve the problem of heating. And on the other hand, concerning finances, they managed to rent this, so they get paid for renting the spaces for the computer service. When it comes to circularity in business models, I am presenting Parador de Santo Estevo, also from the Keep On project. It's in Ourense in Spain, in Galicia. So this is also a former monastery, which has been turned into a hotel. What's innovative here is the management model, because this hotel does not operate by itself, but within the whole network of the luxury hotels, so-called Paradores de Turismo de España. And the very clever solution is that this chain of hotels is actually run by the Ministry of Economy. So Ourense is not really a touristy place, but there are other monasteries in other regions of Spain which are more touristy, and they earn a lot of money. So those who earn more money actually cover for those which are not so touristy. Of course, no need to say that the Paradores, all the Paradores base their business on green transition, on engagement of local community, etc. When it comes to management models, one Portuguese eco-museum example, Museum of Flax, which was the exhibition was done by the local community, but the very interesting business model is the public civic model. So it's meant to be in the partnership between the municipality of Ribeira de Pena and a cooperative of Servas artisans. So this is a civic organization and public organization. So they involve the local community, not only in making the exhibition of curating, but also in the management model. So it's very, very interesting and gives this circular moment. So when it comes to human-centered, fair and responsible tourism, I will present a few Croatian examples, like another eco-museum of Batana. Batana is this small boat, which you can see. This is not a Titanic, so it's just a fisherman's boat, but a beautiful story has been done based on this. So they created a small museum. It's a very participatory model of creating and managing this museum. It's in Istria. It's managed by an NGO. So obviously a local community is in the focus. So being managed by an NGO has its pluses, but also its minuses. Of course, the local community has this appropriation of the resources and everything, which is good. They have the sense of the ownership, the sense of place and everything. But sometimes it happens that the lady who sells the tickets cannot come because she has to take a dog to a veterinarian, so she doesn't sell the tickets. So it has this, you have to find a balance here.
Daniela, may I ask you to conclude? Thank you.
Yes, I'm finishing. So they have several units, several events they organize. You can see that it's very, very local. The locals are organized around everything. One example from the tourism agencies, Peter and Julia's Travel, how they focus on experiences and actually involve tourists in adopting an olive tree, becoming a shepherd for a day, making cheese, etc., etc. Or from Slavonia, this is a social entrepreneurship project where the wasteland was transformed into an educational ecotourism destination. It's all about the nature, gastronomy, therefore green transition. Very good example. And I'm finishing with this slide where we saw different changes in the tourism business due to the pandemic. So the greatest changes were seen in the market change, product change, and consumption change. Where in the market change, we can see the staycation, where you can see here the Tokati festival of games, which were before oriented towards tourists. Now they are oriented towards the local community. The changes in the products are seen in putting forward the well-being, both of tourists and the local community. And the changes in the consumption are seen in the out-of-season travel for the avoidance of the masses, but very, very interestingly, also putting forward remote tourism. I suppose Larissa will talk about it. So this is a new concept where this Faroe Island concept promoted this by traveling from home while the local has the GoPro camera at the Faroe Island and goes left or right as you command as a tourist from behind your computer. So this actually introduces even the reconceptualization of the concept of tourism, because we all know that tourism involves 24 hours being out of your usual place of residence. And now we have the remote tourism, so it's on us as researchers to see how to reconceptualize. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Daniela, for your inspiring presentation, and especially for establishing this dialogue with Be.Cultour project and your own definition of what circular cultural tourism is, by providing concrete examples in regards on how to revisit the tangible heritage, the financial model, the business model, the management model, and what is a human-centered, fair, and responsible tourism. I would like now to give the floor to Elke Aris, who will talk us through a project which is very dear to her heart, which is co-creation and heritage preservation through Wikipedia. Elke, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Does everybody hear me correctly? Okay.
Yes.
Nice. So I'm here to talk to you about our project that we're doing with Wikipedia, because we are using a platform such as Wikipedia to make work of heritage preservation whilst working with heritage communities. Because as you all know, knowledge is power, and free and easy access to knowledge is key when we are talking about the emancipation of cultural heritage. Knowing your heritage and being able to share information about your heritage is vital if we want our societies to be inclusive and make sure that all our heritage community have their place. Understanding heritage, your own as well as others, plays an important role in fostering respect for that heritage, whether it be intangible heritage or built heritage or landscapes or archaeology. And also not only building respect for such well-known heritage items, but also for each other's traditions and personal stories. You can go to the next slide, please. Although the general public is quite familiar with very famous heritage sites and objects, in the case of Belgium, to think of the Atomium, for instance, or the Ghent altarpiece, a very famous painting by the brothers Van Eyck. This is seldomly the case when it comes to local heritage, and when we see castles or farms or interesting folkloric events on the countryside. These are not well known with the grand public. Then are these items not interesting? Do they do not have a touristic potential? Or is there not a lot to know about these places? Of course not. Moreover, there is in fact a lot of local research being done by genealogists or local historians, and that research, that information is actually even being published. And nowadays, you all know it, when you're going off to travel abroad, or even if you want to prepare for a conference abroad or in another area, what do? We Google our information. We want to know, where are we going? And especially tourists, you want to be well prepared, you want to know the interesting places you want to visit. You Google your information, but that local information does not appear in Google. So if you want those places also to become interesting for tourists, we need to make sure that that information can be easily found. And this is especially where the problem for local heritage lies. The next slide, please. So even though there is a lot of local expertise, only a very few people have access to it. If you don't know that there has been a research being done about that castle, you don't know anything about it. Because quite often this information is locked on paper, because a lot of local historians, they still publish on paper in their own language. Or if it is published, it is quite often peer-reviewed publications, and they are behind a paywall. As a result, it is not easy to find information about this heritage, and accessing that information is even more difficult. So what could be the answer? Are we going to create a new application to make this information available for tourists? Are we going to build an interactive website? At Zender, we tried these things. And I have to say, they didn't work, because it cost us a lot of money in terms of development, and also a lot of money in terms of personnel time. And also the thing is, we, a small organization of 3 full-time equivalents, we don't know everything about every type of heritage in our area. We are not the experts. So as a result, if we were writing text for the mobile website that we launched in 2015, quite often there were little mistakes and we needed to correct them. So we spent huge amounts of time doing all kinds of things. But on the other hand, there is a lot of expertise available. So we wanted to do a project where we could use the local expertise to share their own knowledge. And not only to share their knowledge on a platform, but also to share it on a platform that would allow reuse of that knowledge. And also, very important, you don't, as a tourist, you don't surf immediately towards a local website if you want to visit something. No, you Google your information. So also, if you wanted to put that information online, we wanted to make sure that if somebody was to Google a place or a folkloric event, that they would find immediately some information about it. And so our answer was, let's use Wikipedia. Next slide, please. Decided to use Wikipedia because when using Wikipedia, you have the power to involve a whole online community to monitor the contributions, spell check, little editorial changes, but also you have an entire community that can serve as a moderator. In the past, we had some problems with copyrights. We needed to pay high fees because people were giving us pictures that we were not allowed to use, but we didn't know. But when you use Wikipedia, you don't have that problem because everything that has been put on those platforms, it is easily and freely reusable. Also, we wanted to involve our local heritage community because, yes, we are experts up until a certain level, but it are those local historians who are the true experts. It are the people who take part in the folkloristic events that are the true experts about their heritage. So we also really wanted to give a voice to those people. So what we tried to do is we wanted to help those local experts in sharing their knowledge through Wikipedia, because quite often the heritage community is quite different from the Wikipedia community. So we wanted to bridge that gap between those two communities. As a result, we can reuse also the published content of the local heritage community. For instance, first they write a peer-reviewed article that they publish in their own magazines. And then a few months later, they will rework on those texts and rewrite those texts and images towards a more bigger audience on Wikipedia. And when they are writing that article on Wikipedia, of course, they need to cite their sources. And what sources do they cite? Their own sources where their scientific research is available. So it also helps to open up widespread knowledge about those publications and that research being done. The other big advantage of Wikipedia is that it is a multilingual environment for tourists, very important, and that it is also internationally well known. I think it is the most used encyclopedia in the whole world. Next slide, please. When you work with Wikimedia platforms such as Wikipedia, you can reuse that content because the open nature of those platforms allows it. So within our project, we developed actually 2 tools to help also touristic services where we work, and also to help tourists find more information about the heritage in our area. So the first one was to make QR codes everywhere available in the area, like for instance, next to a castle or an interesting landscape. And those are a specific type of QR codes. It's called QRpedia, the tool, because when you scan the codes, the program automatically looks in which language your scanning device is, and it will pop up with the article on Wikipedia in your own language, if that exists. So for tourists, this is very, very useful, especially if you live in a country like Belgium, where language facilities are quite sensitive in some areas, and they don't really allow for multilingual information boards. This is very easy then to access this information. And the other thing that we developed, and now you can go to the next slides, is a widget, a tool. Yeah, you can show the next slide, please.
May I please ask you to conclude?
Yeah, I am concluding. Is a widget that we developed that allows you to show information coming from Wikipedia in your own website within the own look and feel of your website. So for touristic services, this was really useful because they don't need to know everything about that heritage. They can just pull in the information from Wikipedia. So to conclude, why did we choose to work with Wikipedia? This is the next slide, the final slide, please. Because we wanted to make the knowledge freely accessible and available and reusable. We wanted to valorize those local communities, to get the local experts to share their knowledge, and to allow reuse of that content by third partners, also for touristic purposes. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Elke, for providing a different perspective on what circularity is in terms of collaborative projects, where you are valorizing the local community and giving voice to locals in order to be able to share knowledge freely, provide accessibility, change perceptions about own heritage and other people's heritage, but also provide digital solutions in order to provide languages for individuals and to provide service providers with a customized look and feel. Thank you very much. And this will actually help me present our next speaker and give the word to Larissa Almeida, who is a specialized person in really collaborative ways of working, who will share her experience of mixing people from different backgrounds and will therefore explore the power of networking, connecting civil society and public policies for creative tourism. Larissa, welcome again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can I share my presentation? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you a lot for the invitation. And so I'm from Recife. Recife is a city located in the northeast Brazil, and it has around 2 million people, and it's best known by their culture and creativity. And I will present the process of development of creative tourism plan. So Recife has in that period, like it was around 2017, there was a creative environmental. So people doing creative initiatives, cultural initiatives. We have many festivals, and things like this. But those initiatives were spared. They were not organized. So in this environmental, there were HECRIA. HECRIA is the Brazilian Creative Tourism Network, and gathers creative tourism initiatives. And there were some cultural entrepreneurs, some creative entrepreneurs, other initiatives, and the government. So HECRIA, people from HECRIA started to put together, to invite these people to think about how we can foster a more fertile creative ecosystem, to foster this ecosystem that is this transformational core here in the middle. So from these ideas, we created a group work to think about how to develop this core, this transformational core, how we can foster a fertile ecosystem with an integrative governance that leads to regenerative initiatives or actions. The idea that came up was to develop a creative tourism plan collaboratively with people. So what we've done was this group work first started worked in many sessions to think about how we can develop the creative tourism plan in a collaboratively way. After we do this, we have all the ideas, what kind of actions we needed for this. We invited people in an event to ask them, okay, how can we do this? All the society, not only the tourist people, but anyone that wants. We did this event, we invited people, and we said, okay, how can we transform Recife in a creative tourist destination? Because we thought that through creative tourism, we can foster other cultural and creative chains. After this meeting, we did some workshops, ideation workshops, to think about what kind of actions, what kind of initiatives must be in the plan. We did it with people. After doing this, we wrote what was a draft of the creative plan, and we invite people again to subscribe this plan. Okay, we came up with these ideas. Is that okay? Was it that you want? Do you think this will lead us to what we want? So we did this meeting with all the society, and then we got the plan. But I'll talk about it later. For this plan, from this plan, we have all these results. Okay, we have a structured governance. So this group work became a Recife Creative Tourism Forum that is an independent governance, but it's official, and their role is to accompany the development of the initiative, the actions of the plan, also propose things, and also do things. We work together with the government to make this transformational core happens. Then other people, even those that were not in the process, started to develop new products based on these values, on this process, on these ideas. The peripheral areas started to be seen as an interesting place with richness, with things to see and to do and to bring and work together. Also, we could integrate the traditional tourism with these small initiatives and work together in the tourism industry that previously the small initiatives couldn't reach. And also we were enabled to participate in wider social governance space like Economic and Development Council, Tourism Council, that before this we were not the word is not allowed, but we were not invited to be in this kind of place, of space. And at the end of this process, we published the Creative Tourism Plan through a cartoneira publisher that is a publisher that makes all the books handcrafted and using discarded cardboard paper. So all the material was recycled because we wanted to close all the process. So we have social participation, we have integration of the whole society, not only tourism people. We have the environmental thing, and the plan also can be filled by the people who has it in hands. So you have color pencils to paint, to do things, to create, to put your label in the plan also. So the Creative Tourism Forum, it is still working independent of the change of the government. We still doing and being a representative of civil society. And because of all this process, we had the second edition of Creative Tourism Plan. So we did the first one, and it has the time. It is done for 3 years, and then we could renovate this public policy for more 3 years in the same collaborative way. And I think it's like a spiral process upwards. So we had a process for the first one. The second one is an improvement of the first one. And we believe from our experience, it's going upwards. We are putting levels of development and integration, because at the first time, the people that came was more from creative tourism initiatives. Now, for the second, we could put together also the creative economy initiatives and technologies initiatives. Now, we have participating in the forum people from sustainable initiatives, sustainable business initiatives. So we feel that this process is growing upwards in a spiral way, you know. So because of the time, let's thank you. And I'm open for us to discuss, to talk, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larissa, for this timely presentation, which talked us through a process where you departed from culture, from ideas and thoughts which were provided by the society with their voluntary time. You moved towards a social event where people gathered from different sectors, but also from different levels of society. I've seen you mentioning participation of peripheral territories. And you also managed to provide concrete results in terms of actions and activities. You provided this material, which is the manual, the recycled material. And you also had an enabling environment where you managed to also involve the public authorities to support this initiative. Thank you very much for inspiring us today. And I would like now to hand over to our last speaker, Dr. Toki Lawton-Brown, who will describe the power of entangling tangible and intangible heritage with the aim of creating transformational opportunities and circular economy for communities and positively impact the future of African communities as a whole through the round clay and dance and Benin communities. Toki, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Warm greetings to everyone across the globe. I am a heritage architect and cultural economist, because we can't do anything in Africa without the economy as part of it. And so I have a saying that I'm going to introduce now from Yoruba land. So I'm half Benin, half Yoruba. So you'll hear a lot about Benin because of that heritage. And you'll also hear about Calabar because that's where I'm currently working as well. So I'm going to be using 2 case studies in this presentation. And so if I can speak the Yoruba right, is Torotu Inse Sonju Sile Kon Tojoko Si Oju Kon Lo. So it means a 3-pence coin that is busy working is better than 1 shilling that sat in one place doing nothing. And so this brings me to my next slide. So I'm currently working in 2 cities in Nigeria, so Benin City and Calabar. And the 2 significant intangible heritage that I found in both cities, it's amazing how we see the Uge ceremonies in Benin, where the Oba touches his Iben to his father's altars, dancing, which does links himself with his ancestors through the channels cleared by the Iben. So the Iben is like the sword that they use to touch the altars. And so the altars are made of clay. And in Calabar, you have the Aban dance, which represents fertility. So the pot for the worship of the water goddess in them, as a homage to the earth goddess, again, emphasis on earth. So the goddess Abasi is sung, which is credited with the richness of fertility, fertile areas for growing crops and clay ceramics. Again, that emphasis on clay. So what do I mean by all of this? So by visiting all the case studies, I will start with the Benin Cultural Heritage Center, in which I'm working with the community there, and the Benin moats. And so if you know anything about the Benin moats, which is also called the Iya moats, which dates around 880 to the mid-15th century. And this is a combination of moats and ramparts, and they extend over 16,000 kilometers in all. So it's a mosaic of more than 500 interconnected settlement boundaries. And there are 9 ancient gateways to this city that has propelled the Benin Cultural Center to develop a proposal in the construction of the Benin Cultural Village. And again, the issue we always find when we have these proposals is always funding. And so this village is supposed to be like a one-stop tourist destination center to enjoy and experience the unique tradition of the Benin city, not to be confused with Benin Republic, which is also in West Africa, but they all share some similar traits, but the unique tradition, the culture, and the history of the Benin people. So this Benin Cultural Village will comprise of 16 structures. So they are hoping to have museums, art galleries, herbal gardens, a grove, and so on and so forth. And so the center is looking to manage their cultural resources. So one of which is the Benin bronzes that are coming back, which the Nigerian government has just put into law that all the Benin bronzes have to go back to Benin City now. And so now they'll need to house all of these artifacts. And one of which we're advocating for is that these artifacts should be housed in traditional shrines that is open to the community and to the public as a way of showcasing the bronzes in its natural element, as opposed to being housed in the usual air-conditioned, stuff that we've seen in Europe. And so again, I would say thanks to the Michael Ventris Award, which I got in what are we now? We're in April, in March. So we've been able to raise funds now to get locally made tamper rods and boards for youths to use, so that they can develop the skills that they were given in Ghana, because I took youths to Ghana between January, February, and March. So for 3 months, they were in Ghana learning how to ram it. And so now we've brought them back to Nigeria, and they're working on this rammed earth currently in Obudu, which is in Cross River. And we are trying to also, Benin is one side, Calabar is another side, where we're going to be working on a net zero carbon neutral free building, also using clay, using all of the intangible cultural heritage of both cities in Calabar at this point in time, where we're going to be using the form of the Nsibidi symbol, which is the symbol of unity. So Nsibidi is a language writing system developed around Calabar in ancient times. So given the conflicts that the region has had, and in Nigeria in general, my belief is that even our architecture should make a statement of what our aspirations as a people, and this building speaks to the need for peace and unity. And so the idea behind the design is to unify the community towards a greater purpose, social cohesion, and the floor plans will have classrooms for training, a small conference hall for bigger workshops, and a traditional Calabar courtyard in the center, in the entrance of the building, to symbolize the cultural aspirations of the ethics in Calabar as a people. So I will go to the next slide now. So when we talk of circularity through the interconnected relationship between tangible and intangible heritage, you'll find that I'm always going to be talking about the proverbs, I'm always going to be talking about the culture, and I'm also going to be emphasizing on what this means for the community. So we're looking at the socioeconomic impact, we're looking at the community impact, and we're also looking at how this will sustain over time. And so as we designed most of these buildings, as I said earlier, we're using the Nsibidi symbol of unity for the one in Calabar, and for the one in Benin, we're using the idea of the moat, so the rammed earth as part of the building design. And bringing all of this, the whole idea, because initially we wanted to have a brick making machine. So because of the way the bricks were made, we wanted to have a brick making machine. So by the time we looked at all the costs and all the transportation associated with bringing the machine to Benin, we decided that it would be better to train the youths and take them to Ghana, which is also West Africa, to learn how to use the new RAM technology and use that within the buildings. And so that's an example of some of the round earth buildings, the youths that were trained in Ghana are now doing in Benin and in Calabar. And so as you can see, they're learning the skills. They're moving away now because a lot of them said, okay, making the bricks, you know, even the ways they were making the bricks was so labor intensive, but they're finding that ramming the earth is easy and they can achieve the same goals, and it's actually more durable for them to use the rammed earth technology. And so we draw from this this whole stream and creative innovation ideas that impact on the social economy and the community and the sustainability of cultural heritage within these groups. And one of these objectives for us is that we use natural building as a way of returning the local construction, or taking the communities back to something that is more biocommunal, low-tech, circular, and inclusive designed, in still achieving the goal of an Afrocentric architecture within the built environment. And so a lot of this focus is based on us. Okay, so the aim now that we have, based on the funding we got from Michael Ventures and also from Ghetto Henkel, which is the main problem, is funding and getting people to work together to, you know, to write this proposal. So I find myself working, I wish I had more than 24 hours a day to do this funding applications, because I find that it's very tedious to kind of hone in applications for funding to be able to achieve what we're seeing on the ground. Because again, the government is not interested in ideas like this. The government has shown no interest whatsoever in helping with funding with buildings that are not cement intensive, you know. So now we're going through the whole rigor of planning applications. And again, they're asking us why we're not using cement, and we're trying to explain why we're going, you know, with clay. And it's been quite an eye-opener, you know, trying to convince planning departments in the government sector why we want to use round earth technology. And don't worry, I might have another presentation on what I've gone through with them. So we're going through that whole process at the moment. But it's amazing that since the walls have been going up, we've been seeing a lot of community members visit the sites, touch the buildings. I actually missed a picture where a tree fell on one of the round earth walls, and the community were really surprised that nothing happened to the wall. And then we started having memory conversations from the communities of how their forefathers used to use earth in the same manner, that they actually, the brick blocks, a later intervention of the built environment, and that they were compacting earth. And so it was interesting that all of these conversations with the community and the community engagement, even with the youths and people now coming out saying that they would like to see their buildings like this, have come from this simple manifestation of what clay can do within the community. And for me, I find this quite fulfilling, because now we're going back, we're reclaiming old technology. So they're not new, they're old technology, we're reclaiming that, and now bringing getting the community to be involved in this type of technology.
Okay, may I please ask you to conclude?
Okay. Next slide. So the aim of all of this is for us to train 100 youths every year for 3 years on this demonstration building in Calabar, create jobs, generate income for the people, stimulate the local economy, and become efficient artisans. So the community becomes part of the architectural project. They have a vision, thereby creating a sense of pride of ownership, continuous for the next generation. And our objective is to hone in on skill sets as a means of custodianship, the intangible intertwined with the tangible, to give tacit appreciation of cultural heritage within communities as part of circularity. And I conclude with my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toki, for this brilliant presentation. I've been taking lots of notes. You started by using metaphors and proverbs, and you showed us the interplay between the tangible and intangible heritage, and how through the richness of the intangible heritage, you managed to involve the community, provide them with a sense of pride and ownership. You managed to tap into reclaiming the past knowledge and create new capacity building in order to together have eco buildings based on rammed earth technology, which has a lot of aspirations in terms of socio-economic impacts, where you were very attentive also about inclusive design and how to symbolize people's cultural aspirations and make architecture as a statement of peace and unity. Thank you very much for this brilliant and presentation, and a lot of food for thought. We have 10 minutes still for questions. So If you have any question, please unmute yourself and address your question to one or all of our speakers. I don't see hands raised. I've seen that in the chat box there were some Q's and A's. I see Silento Anton. Yes, please.
Hi everybody.
Hello.
As I see, the problem with cultural heritage is non-popularity. It's not really like these places, all these places where, yeah, like from the masses of people, people are not interested in many places, and that is why the government and many of you are struggling with funding, because there is no this popularity. Like many people are not interested. I like I like this idea about when you can delegate the tourism, you can sit at home and somebody is walking there. So for 21st century, of course, it's good. It can work for sure. Of course, it's bad, but for 21st century, it can work. My question is how cultural heritages can attract attention from the masses? How can you attract for everybody? How can you attract the attention of masses?
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're addressing Anton's question to all our speakers, whomever feel like answering. How to yes?
How can you compete with cinemas and malls?
How can we compete with cinemas and malls? I think especially for the young generation, apparently. Does anyone feel like answering this question?
If it's okay.
Yes, please, Daniela.
Okay, so first of all, I think heritage and cinemas are totally, completely different sectors of culture, so they don't have to compete, but I understand your question. Some of the examples I showed, if you paid attention, like the Batana Eco Museum, for example, used in a very smart way interpretation. So heritage interpretation, it's a way about storytelling, interactive narratives. Heritage is something which is deeply ingrained in the identity of the local people. So as it is, as you are saying, it's not dynamic enough sometimes. It's very old, and it's presented often in a very old-fashioned way. So in that way, it doesn't attract people. In Croatia, we have a boom of so-called interpretation centers, which are not really museums, but something very 21st century oriented types of presentation of heritage, where all the exhibits use some interactive, is it technology or interactive workshops, working with the local people and offering experience. So experience that you can actually dress like a local, you can try to be involved in a participatory workshop, doing something with your hands, etc., etc. And this really attracts a lot of people. So it's about storytelling, it's about the narrative you present. So I don't know if you are aware, but on the European level, there is an association called Interpret Europe, and they actually provide services of training of tourism interpreters or heritage interpreters, and they provide you with very, very good skills on how to tell the story, which can be really, really engaging. Besides that, there are other techniques where you engaged all the 5 senses. So if you want to compete with the cinema, which is mostly visual and musical, right? Then you can, within heritage, you can use all the senses. The case of Batana I showed you has also a restaurant which tells the story of the boat and the fish. So you prepare the fish there, so you can smell it, you can eat it, you hear the music, which was sung by the fishermen. Of course, you see everything and you use the sense of touch. So when you use the sense of touch in terms of different participatory workshops, it really engages people and increases the interest.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Actually, storytelling and interactive narratives are very important to reach out to different audiences and different interests in the society. Since we have only 4 minutes left, I would like to address one question to Philippe, which comes from Athena, to learn more about participatory projects in France. Athena is living in Provence and seeking to implement projects with the community. Philippe, do you feel like answering, or maybe we can send Athena something else?
I'd like to know a little bit more about what's behind this question. So, I mean, do you want to know existing projects or maybe the way it can be handled? So what's your question?
Athena, please feel free to unmute yourself. Existing, she says, existing projects.
Existing projects. So, but actually, there is a very nice vehicle already in place in France that ignite participatory approaches is, and you probably know it, it's called tiers-lieux, so third places, aimed at mobilizing local communities. At least some of them are doing that. What is interesting is maybe to consider that we could ignite around industrial or cultural heritage hubs that are relevant for the population. So we might consider to reallocate these places to something that will make sense for the population, not necessarily something related to culture, but something relating to what's the issues that people are currently facing on the territory. Maybe it's a sense of identity, maybe it's something related to environment or social or even economic. But the idea is to say, okay, what can we do with this place and ignite something that gather people around that, and while having a positive impact both on social and environmental perspective. So in France, you might already consider there are different third places, tiers-lieux, but some of them are really in this way of developing a local community around hotspots that have been identified, and so by doing so they contribute to the regeneration of the territory and develop some community activities around their projects. I've been in touch in a very remote place in the south part of France, in the Pyrenees, where we started from the existing assets of the territory, that is some historical places, not necessarily promoted for the tourism perspective, but that have a kind of particularity for the people living there, and other assets that are available in this remote place, that is sun, wind, and wood. And by combining these 4 dimensions, it's something ongoing, it's very early stages. The idea is really to bring back local activities, not necessarily purely touristic, but also economical activities where you bring, it's not, you internalize economical activities that make sense for the people who are living there, not only for a few weeks, but all the year long. And so this is a way to reconsider these places as and to give them a new value that is maybe not possible to allocate with the evolution of the mindset of people regarding culture. So So these are things that could be reconsidered in order to make these places something new and something that comes on top of in people's mind, not necessarily for the cultural aspect, but we can remind people that the history of this place, but because this place has a new use in and a sustainable use in people's life.
Thank you very much, Philippe, for this very interesting feedback. Arwel is asking us to post these projects. Arwel, you can also follow Philippe on LinkedIn, where you can find a lot of inspiring projects he's participating in. Unfortunately, our time is up, but before waving goodbye, please save the date of Be.Cultour's fourth free webinar titled Value-Based Innovative Marketing for Less Known Cultural Tourism Destinations, which will take place on May 15th from 3 to 4:30 Central European Time. I would like to thank our 5 bright speakers, you, our kind participants, and my colleagues from ICLEI, Sophia and Joelle, for taking care of all the organizational matters. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming together today on Zoom, and we look forward to welcoming you soon again. Goodbye and thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
That was really interesting.
Bye.
Have a good afternoon.